Hey guys, welcome back to the Lovin Dubai show. It is Wednesday morning and we had an amazing show. We had two guests on to talk about Baby Loss Awareness Week. It's likely that you know someone affected by this, but the conversations aren't happening. There's an event ongoing this week to support. So if you'd like to know more, please take a listen. We also talked about the UAE doing incredible things for the people in Palestine. They've sent 73 million dirham in aid as part of their policy to provide urgent relief and assistance to vulnerable populations. They've also sent 33 tons of food to people affected in Afghanistan by the earthquake. We jumped from there into a beautiful love story. People met at Expo, then they just got engaged, and we have the gorgeous story of that. Kareem and Tamara, massive congratulations to you. Take a listen to the show. Good morning, Dubai. Welcome back to the Lovin Dubai show, where we go through the top trending stories that everyone across the country is talking about. Our top story today, the UAE sent 73 million dirham in aid to the Palestinian people.
UAE domestic worker gets help after she violated residency laws.
We have the most gorgeous story about a Dubai couple. They worked at Expo, they met at Expo, and now they are engaged. We have a beautiful video and the story that comes with it.
And shining a light and honoring Baby Loss Awareness Week. Later on in the show.
Later on in the show. Let's jump into our top story today. The UAE sends 23 million in aid to the Palestinian people. Announced yesterday, the UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan has directed $20 million in humanitarian aid. Over the past few days, the UAE has expressed concern regarding the escalation of violence between Israel and Palestine. Moreover, the nation stressed on the importance of halting escalations and preserving the lives of civilians as an utmost priority.
The aid is channeled through the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East. This comes as a part of the UAE's policy to provide urgent relief and assistance to vulnerable populations, also sending aid to those in need around the world in times of crisis.
It's worth noting that some flights were halted, but in general, flights are going in and out of Tel Aviv via Emirates, operating as normal. However, if you are traveling on an Emirates or a Fly Dubai flight, and if you wish to cancel or rebook those flights, Emirates will waive your booking fee. They basically said charges and cancellation will be waived for tickets issued on or before 8th of October 2023 for travel until 31st of October. This is obviously a revolving situation, so we'll bring you more on that. But I think the news that the UAE is sending aid has touched many, many hearts. And along with that, there's actually been another earthquake in Western Afghanistan in the last number of hours, which came after the UAE sent 23 tons of supplies to the Afghanistani people affected by the earthquake. And this is all part of ongoing efforts to help people in vulnerable situations. And I think some of the comments coming through this morning is that we're very proud to be from the UAE at this moment.
Yeah, it's tragic news in Afghanistan. We gave the news, was it 2 days ago, that earthquake hit them, and there's another one that came in within 24 hours. So thoughts and prayers to people of Afghanistan.
Very true. Thoughts and prayers to everyone affected. And a lot of comments come through asking, how can you help? When we see, when we have specific areas in which people can give aid, we will share them immediately on Lovin Dubai. But speaking of aid and speaking of helping people near and far, we're going to jump into our next story.
A UAE domestic worker receives legal help after violating residency laws. Authorities shared Irene's story to highlight how important it is to fix your residency status. Irene, a dedicated domestic worker, unintentionally violated foreign entry and residency laws due to her lack of knowledge, and she was unable to either return to work or leave her place of residence.
This is a really interesting story, and it was shared by MOHRE, so the authorities shared the story. However, I must say I have seen a number of Facebook groups with people basically aware that maybe a domestic worker in their home, a nanny, for example, who doesn't have permanent residency. In this case, this happened to Irene, and here's what happened. So she found herself in a challenging situation. Her son's future was in the balance. She didn't have the necessary funds to support his education. And as I'm sure all parents can empathize, what do you do in this situation? She wasn't getting enough money from her employer, basically. So in search of help, she reached out to a friend residing in the UAE, and basically the friend gave her some bad advice. She suggested that she could make more money, earn a higher salary by working elsewhere, as with her current family. So she left the current family.
Irene followed her friend's advice to escape from the family she worked for, believing it was the only way to help her son. What Irene didn't know is that her friend's advice led to trouble. She couldn't work, go out, or get support as she was now living illegally.
Imagine how scary that must be. So, in trouble, and then potentially facing the wrath of the law.
Yeah.
So she was in a very horrific environment, I guess. And after several months, what she decided to do was to deal with her legal status. So she presented herself to the authorities. That's MOHRE. She turned herself in. And what they've said was that they appreciate her courage to do so. And they resolved her situation. And I think the messaging here is that if there is someone in a difficult situation, if they're unsure of their residency status and they need help, you can turn to authorities. They are empathetic. They aren't black and white in these situations, and they will try and help you. Irene got herself into this situation from some bad advice,
Yes.
and MORHE pulled through.
Yeah. It takes courage, and she must have gone through so much stress and worry. And I'm glad her situation got resolved and is, positive. There's a positive outtake on this and not a negative one. Yeah, it's always good to hear these stories,
It is true, and I think it's really nice that this story was actually shared by MOHRE. You can see the full video beside us if you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, the full show, as Instagram knows you're behind the scenes. But we do hear every now and then there's amnesties. This isn't an amnesty call. It's not saying that everything will be waived. However, it is saying that if you're stuck in a difficult situation, they will try and help resolve it for you, which I think, as you said, is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Jumping in to another beautiful story, my favorite of the day. A beautiful Dubai couple, they met at Expo. They were working at Expo in 2020 and now they are engaged. So Dubai was playing Cupid at Expo and it brought this adorable couple together. This is such a Dubai story. And now they're engaged and they're loving life. So an Italian, Lebanese, Kareem and Tamara, two souls working at Expo, didn't just find their dream jobs, they also found love in 2020.
Fast forward a year later, Kareem got down on one knee and proposed on a boat with the majestic Burj Al Arab as their backdrop. Wow, that's amazing. And as if that wasn't magical enough, it all happened on Tamara's birthday, adding an extra sprinkle of sweetness to their love story. Dubai, the ultimate matchmaker for people from around the world, worked its magic to bring together an incredible mix of Italian and Lebanese cultures in the beautiful love story of Kareem and Tamara. Congratulations, Kareem and Tamara.
Cute!
That's a wonderful story.
So cute. What do you think of the proposal?
I think it gave it meaning to be on her, like for it to be on her birthday. So whenever it's her birthday, she'll remember I got married to the love of my life and my best friend on the same day that I was born. So it's two birds, one stone, basically.
And also easy date remembering.
Yeah. I think it made it easier for himself.
It's like, I'm never going to have to remember the proposal date because it's on the birthday. Therefore, probably sidelined on the gift because he just gave her a ring.
Yeah, probably go all out just in one day and then you're good for the rest of the year. Yeah.
Though, it does bring me back to so many amazing Expo memories and what a great time I think everyone had. And I remember being down there and speaking to people who worked there. And although Kareem and Tamara are Dubai residences, there are so many people, they brought in from around the world to staff the pavilions. I remember chatting to people who worked in the Italy pavilion, and they were just students or uni people in for the summer. By the way, they were dressed in, was it like Dolce & Gabbana had done their uniforms because it's Italy? Really cool. But they all had such an amazing time, and it was such a kind of a moment in their lives that they were able to come out and stay in Dubai for a couple of months, get to know the city, get to know people from around the world. And we, as I guess guests, saw just a snippet of that. But the people working at Expo were truly part of something so special. And then we have a proposal.
That's a beautiful story, and Expo was one hell of an event.
What was your favorite part?
It's just seeing people from different places around the world. I'm not an outgoing person, so for me to go to the Expo 2020, it was a unique kind of experience. I went to multiple pavilions. I went to Bahrain's pavilion, which is where I'm from, if nobody knows.
How was the Bahrain pavilion?
Unique, I would say. It was different. It was a different kind of experience. Yeah. I'm meeting different people from all over the world. Like I met people from Brazil, Japan, so it was nice. It was a nice experience.
I liked the food element from all over the world, right? Because they brought in pop-ups from New York, from Italy, from churros, like great delicious things. If anyone has any cool Expo memories, please drop them in the comments. We'd love to read them. Some congratulations are coming through for the happy couple. But for me, I think it was the food at Expo, and then all of the events. Like I saw Coldplay in Al Wasl Dome,
Coldplay,
and you could see it was an intimate, as I think, gig that you get. Like Coldplay aren't playing small venues at this point. It was an intimate-ish gig, a couple of thousand people, and they were playing in like a circular, because everyone on each side had a view of them, and they were projected on the screen. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that dome is one of a kind. I went there during the World Cup. It's beautiful. I watched the match over there. It's beautiful.
No way.
Yeah, beautiful.
I wonder if they'll do the Rugby World Cup.
Maybe they have I think they do for it, like for World Cup or events. They do kind of, have a place and they arrange
football or rugby though. When Ireland gets into the final of the Rugby World Cup, I hope we all go and we meet there for that. That'll be just fantastic. Okay, it's 8:41 and we're going to jump into our interview. We're going to be shining a light on honouring Baby Loss Awareness Week. It's this week and we want to talk to people who can give us more information around support systems that are available for people going through baby loss. They're going to be with us right after this very short break. Hey guys, welcome back to Lovin Dubai show. Pregnancy for most people is meant to be the most wonderful time of their lives, but for some families, the dreams and hopes of new beginnings are cruelly cut short. Baby loss is not often talked about in a wider sphere. However, it's likely you do know someone who has been affected by it. Love Through Loss supports Baby Loss Awareness Week. And here to tell us more about it, we have Cassie Destino of IVF Support UAE and Pregnancy and Parenthood Support Specialist Lala Langtree-White. Welcome to the show, both of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Let's delve in deeply and quickly to what you guys do.
Love Through Loss is a community, a collaborative community of other parent support networks that come together and recognize that within each one of our communities, so Cassie's from IVF Support UAE, I help run Small and Mighty Babies, Twins Plus Arabia. We've got all these collective communities that all have facets of baby loss within it. Love Through Loss aims to bring parents together, to create support, to be able to help connect with mental health professionals in the region. And we also have, during Baby Loss Awareness Week, we have a 2-day virtual event, and we have an evening of remembrance taking place at Al Barari on Sunday.
Yeah, we are here to help women understand that whatever they have gone through in their journey to parenthood, any trials they've had, parenthood, pregnancy loss, child loss, that there are people who have gone through that and are here to support them, and they don't have to be alone during that time.
Let's talk a little bit about numbers now. Correct me if I'm wrong. 23 million miscarriages per year, but yet it's not really talked about. And, there's no grieving process that's kind of publicly, that people are kind of going through and people are aware of. Why is that?
I think it's still a conversation that is really kept in the shadows. We know that the statistics seem to show us that 1 in 4 families that are trying to create and grow a family will experience baby loss at some stage. So we know that those figures show that all of us are going to know someone who's been through this experience. But it really is still very hard to find support. It's very hard to know how to navigate, and it can be a deeply isolating experience. It's not something that, even though those figures are there, that any of us expect to happen to us. And when it does, it just is earth-shattering. So learning to find a community of other parents who are living with carrying a baby in their heart rather than their arms, being able to have that support and community is enormously validating, comforting, being able to know that you will survive this when it feels unsurvivable.
And do you think people just don't understand the grief that people go through? Do you think that's an element of it? Like, can you explain what that grief might feel like for someone going through baby loss? Because maybe there's the lack of awareness that people aren't aware of.
I think because we don't talk about it, because it's still so taboo, and we're all so afraid of it, that people are afraid to sort of conjure it in their life by talking about it. And so we don't share the process of the grief, and we don't share that you do come through to the other side, and we're so focused on the loss, which is so profound. But we do know that there are support communities and there are tools that help people navigate it and become, it's one of the trials of life that makes us the people that we are. But we're all really afraid to talk about it because it's so acutely painful. It's something that feels so private. But as we start to talk about it, very often we find so many people in our community have had the same experience, but we're all doing it privately and siloed, alone. So a big part of what we're trying to do is just to say, you don't have to do that alone. There's no reason to do that alone. There's a community of people who can walk with you through that experience.
Well, you're sitting before me today and we're talking about it. So what motivated you both to kind of create awareness?
So I have my own personal story and experiences of baby loss, but the big motivation for me is working out here as a doula, as a pregnancy and birth and parenting support specialist, is the women in the community that I came across, or that I supported, who'd gone through the loss of one of their twins in a multiple pregnancy, who had gone through stillbirth. I work as a bereavement doula, and seeing them and seeing these families is the only inspiration and motivation that is needed to really want to make it better for the next person. There's nothing I can do that can fix it. There's nothing I can say that can ease that heartbreak, but we can surround them with compassion, with love, with validation, with a community of other parents who are living with baby loss.
Yeah, and similarly, I had the experience of going through a loss and going through infertility on my own as a new expat here in the UAE. I didn't have any friends that were going through it. I didn't know where to go, and it was a very isolating, difficult experience. When I came to the other side of it, I was very lucky to have twins on my third IVF, that I decided that I didn't want other people to go through alone what I'd gone through alone. So I created a community to connect women to each other. Through that, I met Lala and all the other extraordinary women that we do our work with. And so our job is just to keep women from going through what we went through without support, letting them know there is support. We are your support.
Is there stigma attached to it? Like you said, that people just go through it silo and we go through it alone. Like, is there stigma? Is that why we don't talk about it?
Absolutely.
I think people are very afraid to talk about death in general. You think back, we only need to go back to our grandparents' generation, and birth and death took place much more in the home. And now we don't see those things. You know, they all take place in the hospital. So those huge life experiences have become that much more distanced from us anyway. But I think pregnancy loss enormously, there's still that tradition for so many people of not sharing the news of their pregnancy until they hit that magical 12-week, 20-week, whatever it might be. And if people feel comfortable doing that, I completely respect their choices. But what it can mean is it can feel quite an isolating experience. And within those 12 weeks, your life as a parent has changed exponentially already. You know, your hopes and dreams are so much more beyond the sum of the gestation. And I think to then go through that earth-shattering loss where perhaps people hadn't yet been on that journey with you, you hadn't shared that news, is huge to bear. And that's one thing at Love Through Loss that's really wonderful, is we are such a collective of different experiences in different parts of the community, and we recognize loss from any stage, and that includes through the IVF process.
So in fact, can you talk about the different types of loss that people might experience and how you support them?
So from my side of it, the infertility side, there is a loss to not being able to get pregnant on the terms you wanted to get pregnant. You know, you sort of grow up thinking, when I grow up, I'm gonna have a baby, and then when it doesn't work out that way, and you have to sort of medicalize that experience, that is a loss in and of itself. The loss of kind of the innocence of just being able to have a baby. And then, of course, there's failed cycles, there's implantation failure, there's chemical pregnancies where the pregnancy sort of starts but never really gets going. These are all losses. These are all things that, and then, of course, later miscarriage, you know, once you have seen a heartbeat, these are all losses that you don't expect, that isn't really on your radar at the beginning of this journey, and I want to honor that piece of it.
And then within the rest of our communities, it very much overlaps. So within Twins Plus Arabia, for example, we know that the risks of pregnancy and infant loss and neonatal loss are increased within a multiple pregnancy. Within Small and Mighty Babies, we are supporting communities of people who have high-risk pregnancy or giving birth prematurely. We know that premature birth is still one of the leading causes of death in children under the age of 5. You have stillbirth, late-stage miscarriages, you've talked about neonatal loss. We have families within our community whose children have died through sudden infant death syndrome or some sudden unexpected child loss. We have accidental death. We have illness. There are so many different facets to it, and that can be just so incredibly isolating to go through alone, and just earth-shattering. And we know that you don't get over loss. You learn to create and build a life around it. And by having the support community, you're able to speak to other families on the days that you feel like this is unsurvivable, to be able to talk about what did you do in this moment, being able to help with the different and complicated facets that come in, the anger, the guilt, all of those things that can encompass loss is so helpful. And also we have an incredible support system within the mental health professionals and clinics in Dubai that help us run professionally facilitated support groups, and they're just, it's great to be able to see more and more support and awareness coming to the community.
Interesting that you say more and more support. So you mentioned when you went through your own journey that there wasn't a support system. Was that because you weren't aware, or because that these support systems are kind of newer to the country?
I think at the time there wasn't that support, at least for the infertility side of things, because I started one, because I was looking for one. I was sure there must have been one, and I looked, and I never saw one. So I started one that just sort of organically grew. I think that there was sort of more of a grassroots support, but we have worked very hard over the last 5 years to really sort of formalize this network of support, to be working with the clinics and making allegiances with doctors and mental health facilitators, and trying to make it a more kind of substantial, solid level of support instead of just go find it on Facebook on your own sort of thing.
Interesting. And do you have any tips for people at any stage of baby loss? Like, what can they do? Who should they reach out to? What would you suggest?
I think one of the things that's important to say is that there's definitely a school of thought that Baby Loss Awareness Week is less about the parents. They don't need awareness being brought to their loss. They live with it and carry the grief and the love of their babies every single day of the year. But what it can do is really open that conversation up on a wider level. It can help improve support and knowledge for those who are in the immediate vicinity of them, whether it's healthcare providers, whether it's family and friends. That is really something that this week is about, is really putting that voice on a bigger platform as well, and connecting people, finding stories, because we still hear all the time, oh my gosh, I wish I'd found you when. We still don't see as much signposting as we'd like, particularly from those who are immediately connected with families, the care providers, etc. And what's wonderful about our virtual event is seeing so many different professionals joining the conversation, from midwifery, neonatology, and pediatrics, being able to join and give that kind of signposting and that validation to it. One of the other things that we have within the community is we have our memory boxes that are in several of the major hospitals out here. We really hope to get them into more, and it's a great way that families are then instantly connected with the community and supported through memory making.
Tell us a little bit more about the memory boxes.
So the memory boxes, we've got one that is more appropriate for early on. So within them, you've got a candle, you've got a little swaddle, you've got information about our support community and different global support communities as well. We really recognize that people maybe feel more comfortable in their own native language. So we've done a lot of research in trying to create a really substantial resource list, and that's all on our Love Through Loss website. And again, this would be something that you could give a friend who's going through an unsuccessful IVF to recognize and validate that experience as well. And then we have our larger memory boxes, which again have a little cocoon in there and more information around the logistical support as well, through Middle East assistance for repatriation, cremation, burial, conversations that very few of us ever expect to have. Particularly, we have an enormous expat culture out here, and I don't think I've ever met a family who have sat down and had a conversation about what happens if something happens to one of us in advance. And so being able to have that information and navigate it is hugely helpful. So again, it's not the baby they want to take home, but it's a recognition by the hospital, by the community that you aren't alone and that your baby mattered.
Well, that's really interesting, because I did want to ask, how can one commemorate a baby that they've lost? Is there specific ways that you would recommend?
There's so many different ways. You want to talk about it a little bit from the kind of earlier pregnancy aspect of?
Well, I mean, I think acknowledging the loss is always a difficult thing to do, and everyone will have their own way that they feel comfortable. You know, there are people with miscarriage who just say, look, I need to just move on. I'm trying to have a baby. I've had this experience and I'm going to just move forward and I'm not going to think about it. That was my experience with it. But then there are equally people who say, this was my baby. This was something that I created. I need to acknowledge this and give that baby a name and give that baby a place in your family, and, you know, recognize that that was a member of your family, and each person is going to have their own relationship to that grief. Mm-hmm. And there isn't a wrong way to acknowledge that. If what works for you is the only thing that you can do, and we support whatever journey you need to take to kind of get to that point where you feel ready to be in the family that you've got. So I don't want to suggest that there's a wrong way, because there absolutely isn't, and everyone will navigate it on their own and with what makes sense for them.
And what we have, so with the memory boxes, by having them in the hospitals, they are that immediate point of contact of memory making with your baby. So whether it's mark making, taking hands and footprints, if this is a baby who's perhaps stillborn or in NICU, lock of hair, it might be having their hands and footprints cast. We offer free remembrance photography with some incredible photographers who give of their time in the community, who'll come into hospital. Things that, you know, in a very short-lived time that you get with your baby, you get to create this lifetime of memories, and that can be really, really precious. And as Cassie said, there is no one size fits all. What's right for one family isn't right for the next, but being able to have those options available to them, that is what we want to create more than anything else. Is these are avenues that are available to you. This is what's available. This is what we can, because when you're in that depth of shock, it's incredibly hard to navigate yourself without someone saying, you might want to consider this. Does this feel right for you? Would you like us to help you organize this? And then things like our Evening of Remembrance every year is just the most beautiful gathering of families coming together. And I know that many families do the most wonderful traditions around keeping that connection, around important dates like birthdays, anniversaries, expected due dates. And we'll be talking about things like this within our virtual event. There are specific sessions talking around memory making, about recognizing those important dates and keeping connection, as well as things like sibling support and friends and family, how the wider community can help and support, what language to use, what to avoid.
Very interesting. And before you leave us, can you just explain the term rainbow baby and what it means for families?
So a rainbow baby is a baby that comes after the storm, the rainbow after the storm of baby loss, of miscarriage, of infertility, of whatever the storm feels like to you. The rainbow is that beautiful blessing that comes after that storm.
It's the hope, and it's not that your baby was the storm. It's the grief, it's the loss, it's being able to say, you know, a rainbow only exists because you've got both the rain and the sunshine. And parents who have lost a baby, that baby's still part of their family forever. So the rainbow baby is that symbol of hope, but it's never in replacement of the baby that they lost. It's an
acknowledgement of the baby that you've lost.
Absolutely. And we'll be speaking to the experience of pregnancy and parenthood after loss as well within our virtual event.
Okay, well, the event is in honor of Baby Loss Awareness Week. Thank you both for all of the efforts that you're doing. How can people get in touch with you? How can people learn more about the event? How can they take part?
So you can find everything on the Love Through Loss Support website. So that's just lovethroughlosssupport.com. You can also get in touch with us on Instagram as well, Love Through Loss Support. And from there, you'll be able to find the individual communities such as IVF Support UAE, Smaller Mighty Babies, Twins Plus, all of the additional things. Find one one of us, you find all of us.
It's amazing when you sent over the information, there's so many little facets to what you're doing and there's so many nuances and niches. So I think it's, as you said, find one of us, you'll find all of the support system that's available for women in the UAE. So amazing. Guys, thank you so much for your time, Cassie and Lally. We really appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Guys, that is all we have time for on the Lovin Dubai show this morning. We're back with you tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Goodbye from me.